This question states, when preparing a sterile field, which of the following actions is not appropriate? So we're looking for an incorrect choice here. So as a reminder of what the sterile field is, everything that you use in healthcare will be clean, meaning that it won't have dirt on it, it won't have other contamination on it, but it won't be completely sterile unless you're doing a sterile procedure and you have sterile packaging and set up a sterile field, which means that it really has not come in contact with anything. It has been completely free of any potential contamination. So this question is asking about that. So when you have your little square sterile field, so you might have your sterile drape here and all of your sterile supplies in the middle right there. So which is not appropriate? So the first choice says touching only the outer 1-inch border of the sterile field. So this is referring to when you have your sterile field, the outer 1 inch, so this is not sure on the scale of course, but we'll say this is the outer 1 inch, is considered non-sterile because you might have other items that are not sterile outside of the sterile field itself. So we consider this outer 1-inch border to be not sterile. So what this answer choice is saying is that you can touch the outer 1 inch because it is not sterile, and that is correct. And since the question is asking which is not appropriate, but this is considered okay, we can eliminate option A. Option B says placing sterile items from a height above the sterile field. So this means that, let's say that this item right here is a sterile item. This is implying that we could create this item's spot to be right here, which is outside of the sterile field. So that would not be appropriate because if this is a sterile item, we need it inside the sterile field. We're not going to be placing it outside somewhere where it could get contaminated. However, since the question is asking which would be not an appropriate choice, and this is not appropriate, we could go with option B. But let's take a look at option C and D as well. Option C says checking the expiration date of sterile packages before opening. And yeah, that would be appropriate, not just for sterile procedures, but just in general. Anytime you use any sort of item with the patient, you always want to make sure it's not expired before use. So we can eliminate option C because that is an appropriate action, and we are looking for which was not appropriate. And option D says keeping the sterile field in view at all times. And yeah, that makes sense because you want to make sure that the sterile field is still sterile, that nothing happened to it, no one touched it, nothing got in that shouldn't have gotten in, nothing went out that shouldn't have gotten out. So that would be appropriate to keep it in view. So since that is appropriate, we can eliminate it. And that leaves us with our initial instinct, option B. Placing sterile items from a height above the sterile field would not be appropriate, which is what this question is asking about.